Hi, I'm Damien Masson, a PhD candidate at the University of Waterloo, and this is work that I have done with my supervisors Sylvain Malacria, Géry Casiez, and Daniel Vogel. It's frequent to read paragraphs of text packed with numbers, and oftentimes it requires a bit of a mental gymnastic to interpret these numbers. For example, here, just finding the two fastest conditions will require a bit of thinking. And it's even worse if we want to sort the conditions or do some comparisons or filter these numbers. That's why we propose Charagraphs. Here, I can select this text. This opens a menu where I can select the numbers. And I can create a charagraph that will give me a visual representation of the numbers that are in text. Then I can interact with the charagraph to do different tasks. For example, sort the values or compare them. Charagraphs are handy to do all sorts of operations while reading. For example, a reader can create charagraphs to visualize the information presented in a paragraph, even if the document did not have figures in the first place. Charagraphs can also be augmented to show the variability of the data. This is done by merging two charagraphs and add standard deviation as error bars. But it can also be useful for information scattered in the document. For example, I can combine two different charagraphs to essentially combine the data from two parts of a document. Then it becomes straightforward to visualize trends or do comparisons. And in the end, these charagraphs can stay in the document and serve as annotations useful in the future. A charagraph is characterized by three aspects. The first one is the information that can be leveraged from the text obtained in the document. Of course, the numbers represent the data used for the visualization. But the text has more information that might be useful. For example, the statistical terms might guide the choice of encodings. The units after the numbers can make the chart more personalized. The labels can annotate the chart. And the semantic can indicate a more appropriate visualization. Another parameter that can be changed is the integration between the text and the chart. In the simplest case, both are kept separate. But another option could be to embed the chart directly within the text. This would have the advantage of preserving the document's reading order. Or, on the other extreme, we can have the text be completely embedded within the chart through the use of annotations. Third, a charagraph has two interaction contexts: in text and on the chart. The interaction in text allows to follow the textual narration by connecting each value with the chart. It also supports simple actions like comparisons. Interacting with the chart supports several data exploration tasks, such as filtering the values above and below a threshold, comparing two values, sorting the different values, and calculating the mean of the selected values. And of course, the chart can be customized and turned into a line chart or pie chart if more appropriate. To test this concept, we modified a PDF reader so that every time text is selected, a menu shows up allowing readers to select the values of interest. Under the hood, the selected text is analyzed to form semantically relevant groups of values. We then evaluated the usability of our system. Our first question was, can people use our system to create charagraphs? That's why we asked 12 participants to use our tool on 3 different paragraphs that we extracted from publicly available document and research papers. For each paragraph, participants answered 4 multiple-choice questions. Overall, we found that all participants completed the task without difficulties. It took them less than 2 minutes to create charagraphs. They also gave the system a high score on the system usability scale. And they rated positively statements about the system. For example, participants were able to create what they had in mind, and they did not feel limited by the system. So we can cautiously say that people are able to use our system. But that does not tell us if they benefit from having those charagraphs. That's why, after running the usability study, we asked the same 12 participants to go through a utility study. The difference with the previous study is that participants answered more complicated questions, they had to follow instructions to create charagraphs, and they went through two conditions, one with charagraphs and one without. We found that participants spent a similar amount of time to answer questions in both conditions, but they were more correct with charagraph than without. In terms of subjective results, participants rated their performance higher with Charagraph and had lower mental demand, effort, and frustration. And they rated all statements in favor of Charagraphs. For example, they did not find Charagraphs distracting. And in fact, they found it easier to find the answer using Charagraphs than only text. So, to summarize, our results seem to indicate that our system supports the creation of charagraphs and that created charagraphs help readers. Beyond our research questions, participants also had several interesting comments. First, some participants mentioned that the simple fact of knowing that they can create charagraphs made them read differently. For example, P4 mentioned actively seeking numbers to put them in charts, possibly making them think more about the content. We also found that participants had distinct behaviors regarding charagraphs. For example, some participants like to have multiple charagraphs, even when they had the same information, but presented in a different format. Similarly, P9 explained that they disliked error bars and thus would always rather show standard deviations as bars. Before I conclude, I'd like to go over some future work. First, the design space of charagraphs is large, and we did not explore it fully. For example, we did not evaluate the effect of having different levels of integration. Yet, these different levels could impact reading order and reading behaviors. Second, advanced natural language processing could help analyze text and recover information that could further customize charagraphs. But this should be designed with care because too much automation might confuse readers. Third, we only support bar, line, and pie chart. But other charts could be useful too. Of course, the challenge is that the data necessary might just not be present in the text. Similarly, there are more tasks that readers might be interested by doing and that could be better supported. Fourth, because charagraphs rely on visualizations, it might also inherit some other qualities that we could not test. For example, it is possible that charagraphs help with information retention. And it is also possible that having charagraphs make readers more engaged with the content. Finally, the idea of charagraphs is not limited to digital documents nor PDFs. And a version could be developed for smartphones and using augmented reality to overlay charagraphs on top of physical documents. And with that, that's the end of my talk. The source code and a live demo of the tool are available online if you are interested. Thank you.